there, thanks for joining me. I'm Kira. This is a continuation of the series I'm doing on the element of air and the swords within the tarot cards. So just to reiterate, I'm using the Rider-Waite-Smith Universal deck, and we're up to now looking at 5 through 7. So if you haven't already done so, check out the introductory and the Ace through 4, which is our previous videos. So just to remind you, remember, swords is about your personal opinions, your reactions to situations, your intellect, your ability to analyze situations, to cope with challenges and problems. You might say it's everything to do with that above the neck, because it's all about the mind and communication. It also looks at things like your power to change. It's about air, so it's about how we speak and what we say, how we make decisions, how we perceive the world, what are our beliefs or our values, how we understand things or not. So when you see the swords, you know, this is about, are things clear at the moment? Is there something in my way? How's my mind reacting? Am I analyzing what's true? Am I caught up in an illusion? Where are my beliefs and values in this particular situation? So, 5. Okay, so let's look at the 5 of Swords here. Okay, so definitely if you look at this, you might say, okay, there's been a battle of some sort and boundaries have been drawn. So, it's not necessarily a defensive stance. It's about perhaps taking a stand over a situation that might be seen as unpopular or may not be in agreement by all other parties. You might be feeling a need, bumping into some sort of aggression by somebody else. Or you might find others are contradicting you in some way. Notice, because these figures here, they've turned away, but they have dropped their swords. You're still holding on to your sword, this figure here in the foreground. It might be that you're feeling rather defensive about a situation, or as I said, you might be standing your ground. You might be feeling a bit stubborn about a decision. Or you might be sort of taking care of what yourself is saying is needed at this time, and that might include backing off from pushing any further about the situation. When I look at this card, no one has necessarily won, no one has necessarily lost. Others have decided to turn around and walk away and drop their swords. So they've sort of gracefully thrown down the sword, so to speak. So when you look at these cards and all the cards really, pay attention to sort of how do you react to the various images in the card. What is that saying to you? You know, definitely it's a 5. So 5 is about change. So you can sort of take that onto board in terms of what is the imagery saying in reference to the numerology number 5. But you know, it's like, yes, you might then, it might highlight in a reading that there's some conflict that's happening, or some disagreement, or some tension, maybe some hostility, and is that coming or past is going to depend on where it falls in the reading. But remember, it's about the mind though, so it's about the person's perception that there's conflict or hostility or tension, and despite and how they're thinking about it. And whether they see themselves as, you know, agreeing to disagree, or feeling that they've lost something, or they're feeling hurt and they're needing to sort of walk away, is going to depend on the person and situation. This might also be one of those times when it feels like you're feeling a little bit like others aren't on your same page as you, and you might feel that, you know, all the stakeholders seem to be running around in their own different direction, or you might be feeling a little bit like you've lost some friends along the way, that sort of general feeling. But it's important to note that you're really okay, that you have made the decision, you're still holding on to your swords, you've still got your sense of empowerment and your ability, your beliefs and your values and and your intellectual capacity is still with you. You're still holding on to them. You know, you've just decided to maybe take a break. And as I said, this isn't a really, it's not a major battle. There has been some sort of aggression showing up in this card, and some changes needed. There's been some sort of struggles or some sort of opposing forces. But as I said, the figures of the others, they have dropped their swords and walked away. They're looking away. So they've decided that they're willing to just sort of not battle out the situation. So, for example, this could be the kind of thing where you realise it's just not the time. It's not the time, it's not the place to really battle something out with someone, in an area of disagreement that you've got. Sometimes we have to pick and choose the time and the place. It's like 11 o'clock at night. It's not the time to start a disagreement with your partner about something that really could be discussed tomorrow, or when you don't have all the facts or the figures and so forth and whatnot. So that's just sort of an example. I also can find sometimes when I look at this card, I always think the look of the face of this figure might say, well, a little bit of sneakiness going on here. So, I think, who's being sneaky? Am I being sneaky as in the person who's being read? Or is it the situation at hand has the potential for some sort of betrayal or sneakiness? So I always think when I see this card, I think, okay, sometimes we have to, if something's too good to be true, it is too good to be true type concept. Can you really be sure that you can trust yourself and how you're responding? Like sometimes it's that, all your buttons have been pushed and really you've got to sort of step back and kind of look at yourself. Or is it someone else around you that's being a bit sneaky or a bit lacking in fully disclosing the truth of the matter, that sort of spin doctoring type concept. So keep that in mind too when you're sort of looking at this card and where it falls in a reading. Alternatively, you might say, well, that this is also a card of victory, that this person has realised that sometimes you need to stand up for what you believe in or what's right, and knowing that others may not agree with you, and that might bring about a loss or some sort of change in the relationship of a situation, but it's really important because it is needed. But it sort of depends, is this a true victory or is this a hollow victory? Because you really can't see, particularly since the others have turned their back, you don't really know the full situation there, and that look of smugness on the face kind of goes, oh, it might be a bit of a hollow victory at hand. Again, you're going to ask yourself those questions depending on where it falls in the reading. Okay, moving on to the next card, the Six of Swords. Okay, so here we've got a person, and the Six Swords are upright, but they're obviously going on a journey. They're moving away. You sort of look at this card and you kind of say, well, there's been a bit of you're following it on from the Five of Swords, a bit of a change has occurred, or a bit of a difference that has come about, and now this person, this energy is saying, well, you might need to move on and move away and look at what's the long-term goal or the big picture. It might show that you need to make a bit of a transition, and that might feel in the immediate rather regretful, that perhaps the outcome of your actions here might have brought about a consequence that in the short term you're kind of feeling a bit like, oh my type. Although you might regret, though that in the long term, in the big picture, it really is the best option for you. So when this card's coming up, it's saying moving on isn't the best option for you. There's times when we're sort of forced to let go, and that's really important that we realise that. Although at the same time acknowledging that there's a sense of sadness and loss when we have to move on, or we feel the need to move on. But rely on the fact to know that because you've made this conscious decision, and if you've done it from a place that fits right with your values and beliefs, so what was the intent here is the key, then you can say there's going to be greater clarity and a new sense of renewed acceptance in this change that you're embracing. You might also find this card comes up when someone comes to a place of a rite of passage. That change that sort of got forced upon them is that it's time to move on and to say that I need to move and go to a whole different direction than maybe my peers or my family or my friends have sort of enveloped around me to date. And so knowing that this is sort of a rite of passage that I must move on, although again there's a bit of sadness around that loss of the norms or the familiarity of how things were in the past. Again, where I would be looking to see where this card falls in reference to what's it facing in terms of where it lies in the reading, but also what cards are around it to give you a better sense. Am I heading towards a better position, or what am I heading towards? Is it that I'm changing my beliefs and values? Is it that I'm changing the way I'm totally thinking about something? Am I drawing upon a new state of mental clarity, or new way of logic, or new way of analysing something? Is it that I'm really starting to pay attention to my intuition, allowing that to sort of guide me in this decision or this move forward? What's this water? You might be asking, what's all this water around, and what does that represent in my life? Because could literally say that you're going to have a trip across water. That water is quite important. What does water mean in the reading? Is it about depth of feeling, depth of intuition, depth of knowing, that bringing up that unconscious wisdom, or is it quite literally around leaving friends and family behind and moving on into some sort of long-term goal? And with it, that might involve sort of physically crossing some water of some sort. But the transition is important in this card. It's a release of some sort of stress. It's a moving forward, and therefore it's that sort of transitional indication of energy. So it's usually a time when major decisions are being postponed. The mind is not totally in a place of knowing where it is I'm going. Like they're looking forward, but they don't really know where they're being directed to. So again, this is not a time for decision making, but it's around the following through on the actions. So it's the consequences of the actions that occurred here. Okay. 7 of Swords. Okay, so this one here is definitely, there's a serious smug, there's this one's sort of a slightly smug look, but this is a seriously smug look. And this is, I've grabbed my swords and I'm on the run. And I kind of think when I see this 7 of Swords, this could be, I'm needing to be tactful. This is the person who's being perfectly tactful, not really saying what they think or feel, avoiding that conflict, secretly keeping something to themselves, which could be perfectly appropriate, in the marketplace and when you're in business. Sometimes, you've got a new idea, a new project about to launch, and it's not quite the time. You do keep things to yourself, or maybe you've put an offer on a house, and you're not going to run around and tell all the other people who are wanting to buy this house what you've offered, because that's not the way it's done. You're not going to. It's appropriate to keep it to yourself, to sort of. But the other side of that is. Sometimes it's because someone's not saying what they really need to say, not saying what's true. They're keeping something. There's a deceit or hiding the truth. It could even be the person could be hiding the truth from themselves. So it could be external or internal. But either way, the truth is not fully known when this card appears, and that's the important thing to pay attention to. So it could be the truth this person doesn't want to face something. It could be that they're not really fully seeing all that they need to see and realize, and therefore their analysis or their decision making is a little bit flawed. As I said, it could be just they need to keep stuff to themselves because it doesn't suit to share. It's one of those cards, though, that you can't do this for a long time. It's sort of like, so depending where it comes up in the reading, is this a pattern of someone's behaviour that they're doing, and what are the consequences of that, or is this a short-term sort of position a person needs to take, and that's quite appropriate. But you can only sort of hold that stance for so long. This one, the battle occurred. They did face the situation. They did stand their ground. They did speak out. They chose then to realise that sometimes you've got to part your ways. Here, this is, I'm not really letting on at all. Yeah, I've grabbed my 5 swords and I'm sneaking out. The whole posture is a little bit, and the looking back like, oh, I got away. But the question is, did they really get away? Does everyone around them really know what's going on, and who's really deluded here, or who's really not seeing the truth of the matter? Is it the figure here, or is it those on the outside? Those are the questions you ask. Again, though, look at this card. Look, it's light, it's yellow. yellow, it's showing there's a lot of energy. It's very dynamic. It doesn't necessarily doesn't need to mean that someone is being deceitful in a way that's harmful or hurtful. It could be something, a little bit like, hiding the old birthday presents or not sharing what you're getting someone for Christmas. That's kind of a narrow-minded way of looking at it. But to just give you a general idea of the sort of flavour I'm talking about that you'll think of when you see this card. Okay, well, that was just a quick run through. These are 3 very powerful, very dynamic cards. I encourage you to stop and really look at them and spend some time with them, and also with yourself, what intuitively comes up for you, and really rely on that, particularly in a reading, as to how you may want to talk to someone about this card. Because, I think these are three very powerful cards because we are talking about the mind, and therefore, and they are the swords, So there's a lot of hidden meaning behind these cards, and you want to be really clear. So talking about swords, clear about really understanding what this message is that's wanting to be relayed when these cards appear for yourself or for someone else in the reading. Yes, I said, because it could even be, particularly with this card, I'm just thinking, the mind tricks, the tricks that people play, and or as I said, it could be needing to be tactful and avoid conflict because that's appropriate. But remember, it's about communication, it's about the mind, it's about analytical thinking, it's about the whole ability to use our intellectual capacity to disarm a situation or to engage in a situation. Think of all these things and then apply that to the imagery that you're seeing with these cards. Thanks so much. I really appreciate you coming to my channel today. If you'd like to send me a message, please do so here on the channel. Or check out my website, please do. It's kirrawoods.com, and if you'd love a private reading, please, I'd love to hear from you, so send me a message and let me know. I'll be moving on now to the next 3 cards, I guess, and then after that I'll also do the court cards for the swords. Have a great day. Cheers. Thanks. Bye.